Hey and welcome to the Creative Odyssey podcast, a podcast about entrepreneurship, creativity, and personal growth by me, Emil Ruth. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hey guys, so I'm here with Herbert, Louis, and Hamza Khan for my really first trio episode. And let's see where this is going. I'm really excited. Last time I've been talking to Herbert in the previous episode, and we can wrap this up for anyone who's new here. Herbert, why don't you just reintroduce yourself one more time?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Herbert. I'm the author of a book called Creative Doing. And it's all about this thing I hate, which is creative blocks. And I just hate them so much that I spent a decade finding the answer for it. And so all of that is in Creative Doing. If you've ever felt like you're falling out of love with your craft, or you've felt stuck in what you're doing, you should check it out. 75 prompts to help get you to take action, and from which your best ideas will start to emerge.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for putting this in a short manner, and I really like that you kind of put your book first, because I've got it on my shelf here, but I can't get it because I'm using wired headphones. But just for the listener, imagine that I'm grabbing your book and holding it in the camera. Nobody's need to know. But thank you for introducing yourself. For anyone who's interested in what Herbert did and does, check out the episode I've did with him before. And now, Hamza, who are you?
Right on. I am Hamza Khan. I am an author, educator, and an entrepreneur. I'm the co-founder of Skills Camp. And as a solo artist, you're seeing me, you're hearing me, but with my dear friend Herbert Lay, I am one half of the dynamic duo known as New Material.
Hey.
Check us out on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts. New Material. This is the first official announcement that I have made to my community that we are doing, and we have done a thing. And Emil, I described our approach on LinkedIn to you very, very succinctly. I was very proud of my brevity. I said, Herbert and I are the clips of anxious, introverted authors.
Oh, damn. Is that? I love the clips part, but damn.
Sorry, man. I just had to go for it, man. And I guess, Emil, if this is your first time doing a pod with two other people, this becomes a trio. So I'm trying to think about like a time the clips featured somebody. You know, I'm thinking about the one time they had Cameron on, popular demand. That could be this combination. But I'm partial to What Happened to That Boy, which makes you Birdman.
Oh, damn.
I don't know if that's a compliment. I would just leave it there. I would be way more happy with being Pharrell and you guys being the Clips. That would be
go.
That makes perfect sense, and I might be like on the hook or something, gluing the track together. If that's fine. I don't really like being Birdman in this case. But still.
Yeah, man.
All right.
You know what?
It didn't end up so well with the three of them.
No.
But for
what happened to that boy?
God,
you know?
Let God sort him out, man. Let God sort him out. You know.
Dude, Herbert, when you were going off on creative blocks, I was like, man, do we have to record a diss track to creative blocks right now? Like, I hate creative blocks. I'm like, that's that shit I don't like. Nah.
Yeah, you could just.
Sorry, Emil, we brought New Material hard to this.
Yeah, it's good. You should, and you must bring new material to this. And I'm really excited for 57 track album with each prompt being a song. With
you know what?
With the Rich Brian reference you've made before, Hamza.
Listen, for the listeners who you can't see this, but Herbert earlier, like when we were in the virtual green room, out of a silver tube that looked like it was dropped in from the year 3000. It entered through a wormhole. I was like, what is he going to pull out of this? I was like, it's either going to be a vape or it's going to be food or it's going to be drinks. No, the guy pulled out sunglasses. He pulled out some sunnies that look. I mean, I've only seen one other person wear sunglasses like that. Two people, Pharrell and Morpheus. And Herbert, you're the third.
That's a sick list, dude.
That's really a sick list. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And also, Herbert's recording this from a park, by the way. That's a new level of creative freedom. As far as the Creative Odyssey is concerned, he has reached the end of it with Pharrell, with Rick Rubin. Like, we're here to learn from you, dude.
It's Battery Park. It's nice. It's just, I mean, it's like, I still haven't got my Fahrenheit here. I've lived here a couple of years now. It's like 28 Celsius. The weather is just beautiful. So why not be outside? You know, these long New York winters, it has turned into spring, and it's just amazing.
Yeah. Respect. I'm also a Canadian transplant in New York. It's weird. I was born in New York, and then I spent most of my life, my formative years, growing up in Scarborough, which, by the way, if you want to listen to a great first episode and be completely bewildered by new material, start with episode 8, the Scarborough Files. Just drop in, have no context, and just be prepared to like.
It's so good. That's my favorite episode by far.
Same here.
That's like quintessential new material right there.
Absolutely. If you want long detours, hip hop references, deep cuts, insider baseball, but also you want some gems, right? You want some broccoli amongst the potatoes. That's the place to get it from. But you mentioning that you haven't learned Fahrenheit yet, I think I've reached the point of my New York Odyssey where I refuse to learn Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
In fact, I get pissed off at Google. I'm like, Google, man, give it to me in Celsius. Yeah. How's the weather outside right now? And it's like it's 57 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm German, so Fahrenheit is something. It's like math that doesn't make sense.
It's one of your words, man. It's a German word.
Yeah, it is, but it's like a typical US measurement thing where they measure anything in something that is super impractical, like feet and yards and miles, and you can't even split them up correctly. I don't know. It's like what is called imperial measurement or something like that.
Yeah.
But you're Canadian guys. You have like Celsius, but how do you measure height, like body height, in centimeters?
I would say feet.
In feet,
centimeters, inches.
Our driver's licenses have centimeters. I'm pretty sure.
Centimeters. Yeah. That's true. By the way, you're in Battery Park, Herbert. So just be on the lookout for Tony Yayo.
Yo, I thought that was an old video. Is he still around?
He's still around. He still lives in Battery Park.
He still lives in the Battery Park.
That's sick.
He's probably in the park.
Building right there.
Yeah.
That's sick. How does Tony A live in Battery Park? That's crazy.
There's a great Vlad episode. I think it's one of his first or second Vlad appearances, which is my all-time favorite guest on Vlad TV. I don't know how we feel about Vlad TV right now. I have a whole theory that he might be an FBI informant, but we'll park that for a second. But the first two appearances of Tony Yayo on Vlad are absolutely legendary. And like Tony Yayo goes off on this whole rant about how 50 Cent got pissed at him. He's like, you got to get out of the hood. We need you to succeed. We're moving you to Battery Park. Get away from all that nonsense. And then Tony Yayo describes going to groceries in Battery Park. And I'm not going to spoil the bit, but it's like he missed his calling, man. He missed his calling as a stand-up comedian. Anyways, I'm so sorry, Emil. I take full responsibility for this. I just get so hyped whenever I'm around Herbert. But I know that we have a mission here with Creative Odyssey. We have to go on a journey together. So I'm just going to fall back for a second.
I mean, detours are like the definition of an Odyssey, you know? The Odyssey wouldn't be an Odyssey if there were no detours and ups and downs and doing challenges, having fun, doing crazy stuff. That's what the Creative Odyssey is about, really. And sometimes even Tony Yayo comes across. Maybe I get in one of my episodes in the future. Who knows? But
that'd be sick.
That would be crazy to have one of the G Unit members on the podcast. And that's one of my bucket list items I just added. Might be simpler to get him on the podcast than like Kanye or someone like that. Yeah. I always wanted to talk to him. I always wanted to work with Ye, but I think Tony Yayo might be a bit more easy to reach, right?
So sorry. This is the best podcast I've done in years, man. This is so unhinged.
I don't know how.
I'm sorry, man.
I'm
This is
not
great.
sure how much time it would be taking to edit this episode, or if I'm just leaving the laughing tracks all in, or maybe I'm adding more laughing tracks like an old school sitcom or something like that. Whenever I'm dropping, or you guys dropping a bad joke.
Oh man, there's so much to unpack here, but this is the beautiful thing about, I just want to go back, Emil, to what you said about Odysseys, about having a sort of multi-directional quality to them, ups and downs. The podcast that I was on earlier, I was asked about how I would describe my career. And the word I used was nonlinear.
Yeah.
There was diagonal shifts. There were times where I reversed, times where I started all over again, times when I just completely abandoned the quest and started a concurrent quest. But I think that that's a direct result of my being a creative person and then resisting that identity for a very long time. And I feel like that was also something that I unpacked with Herbert as well. The reason our impetus for starting new material is we both found ourselves at a transition point in our respective careers where we were writing for other people, creating for other people. I was very comfortable behind the scenes. I was very comfortable designing other people's websites, other speakers' websites. Mm-hmm. Ghostwriting for them. That was the first episode that we did, Kids See Ghostwriters. And Herbert and I concurrently found ourselves making the switch and going from behind the scenes to center stage, from going, in the green room, from being, inside or outside of the green room to being the talent. And I now finally feel at 37, approaching 38 years of life, like I'm finally stepping into the creative identity that I got distracted from. I think that my entire career is an attempt to get back to some level of creativity that I experienced early on, specifically growing up in Scarborough. I remember being a happy-go-lucky kid growing up in Robinstone, Markham and Shepherd. That's near Malvern, for those of you who are tuning in from the new material universe. And I was playing around with the family camcorder. My friends and I were recording music video remakes. Like we were actually pretending like we were Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, 50 Cent. And I'd be happy to share the videos with you. Like we went to the auto show. Emil, it's this big, like this thing that happens in downtown, like this auto show, this convention. We have this thing called the Metrotron Convention Center. And like all the big car producers show up there, Lamborghini, Ferrari, so on and so forth. And so my friends and I, we would go every year and we would sit in these cars and stand around them and just pretend like we were the G Unit, essentially.
Yeah.
And, dude, video footage of this actually exists. And I'm very proud of it. I think I have like an NDA from my friends not to share it because they occupy some pretty like lawyers and accountants. Like they work in the government. And I'm bound by my own friends to share this. I'm kidding. I think I could share it, but I'd have to run it by them. I have to give them like a 24-hour heads up to be like, I'm your friends and family. Let them know that you're going to be seen, just in some compromising positions.
It was
but
AI. It was AI.
It was all AI. But I was having a lot of fun doing that. And then I think at the tender young age of 14 or 16, whenever you're supposed to decide what you're going to do with the rest of your life when you go to college or university, I had a jarring stop to that. Because my first answer was, I want to make movies. I want to make music videos. I want to be the next Hype Williams, so on and so forth. But that didn't land well with my father, my Indian immigrant father, who said, you got to become a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. Pursue one of these noble, respectable, traditional career paths. Yeah. And then I saw all of my friends sort of go into those roles, and I became stranded on an island of creativity by myself. And I became very disengaged. And I think I've spent the last maybe 15 years trying to get back to that level of creative output that comes from a place of true freedom. And there's a long-winded way of saying, when I reconnected with Herbert, when he moved to New York and we had a great conversation at the Soho House, we said, man, there should be mics here. We should actually record this. Flash forward to late last year, we just started trading voice notes. Those voice notes became us doing a casual non-video recording. And before you knew it, we had a website, we had transcripts, we had 11 episodes now, 12 at the time of this recording. And it was the first project in a long time that I did purely for fun.
Yeah.
And that was actually a big reason sort of why I've been able to get back to creative output. I'm now working on a new book. I've published a new podcast. I've got twins on the way. There's just a lot of creative output happening. And I think a big part of that was the catalyzing conversations with Herbert. I don't know how we started down this path, but I just figured once we started talking about Kanye and Tony Ayo, I'm like, it's time to, slam the brakes on this before we go too far in.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just said you kind of reconnected when you both got to New York. Was it like planned, or did you guys know that you are both going to New York, or just reconnected there?
I didn't know. Herbert, did you?
I think you moved to New York a year before I did. And so I totally forget if this is what happened. I'm pretty sure I reached out to you. I was like, hey, I'm here. Let's hang out. And that was it. We got together. It was like summer a couple of years ago. And then we did the demo of new material. I was renting an office space at Brookfield Place, which is just touching Battery Park. And Hamza came over. I'm pretty sure I used my phone as a voice memo to do that demo. And then I airdropped it to you right after. And we just listened to it separately while we were walking through New York. And it was just, it's been an odyssey, man. What can I say? The reason I'm so glad you brought up Scarborough, Hamza, is because that genuinely is, I feel like we really nailed it with that episode. The whole premise of new material is it's in the name, right? It's let's come up with some new stuff that we haven't talked about before. And I was like, man, I hadn't talked about any of that stuff before. And I also, the craziest part for me was, so Emil, Hamza just described where he lived. I lived maybe one major block away from him. We just didn't know each other at the time. And he went to the high school that I was supposed to go to, except my parents ended up moving. And so I'm hearing Hamza describe it. I'm like, yo, this could have literally been my future if my parents hadn't moved. And it was just so nice hearing all of that. And so, it's been a really interesting set of conversations. Looking forward to more, of course. And it really has been really nice to focus on the process itself, on the conversations, sometimes wrangling each other. We love our deviations. We have many, I don't know that Tony Ayo's made it into the pod yet, but we have many other characters that have been there. Hamza describes his English class and how he got introduced to hip hop through that.
Yeah,
not hip hop, but through. Anyway, there's just so many great moments that new material has helped us create and helped us document. And yeah, it's just been a really great time.
Yeah, man, I'd love to add to that real quick. If you're familiar with the work that Herbert and I do independently, if you're familiar with Herbert's writing and my speaking, for instance, it's quite, maybe polished is not the right word, but it's very intentional. It's meticulous. It's carefully crafted. It's organized. It's structured. I think it's a combination of us being both type A personalities with mild to raging Virgos, OCD,
classic
Virgos. Yeah, dude. It's good stuff. And we take great pride in that too. There's a real discipline. And we talk a lot about the craft of producing. Yep. And to Herbert's point, those creative blocks are things that I experience all the time. So to learn how to move past those creative blocks, I had to learn the discipline of speaking, of writing, of teaching, of all of my different art forms. New material for me, and I think this is true for you as well, Herbert, is like a third space. It's a space where we can actually be unrehearsed, where we can just freestyle a little bit, be unpolished, and actually just be authentically ourselves. And I think Herbert was always more himself than I was. I remember very vividly going to meet him at the Brookfield place. I think Regis was the office space that you were in. One of the big
Yes, sir.
Big rentals. And I remember like pulling up to the lobby, and it had been a couple of months since I last saw Herbert. But dude, this guy comes around the corner with like a salad in his bag, and like he had the baggiest jeans on, and I'm like, what happened to my friend? Like, dude, what happened to your pants? Because like I'm an aging millennial. I was born in the year 1987. And like up until this point that I met Herbert, like my pants were tapered, they were skinny. You know, I just decided I'm going to follow through in the tradition of Young Thug and A$AP Rocky and just like, you know, get the silhouette down a little bit. I didn't know that the zeitgeist had moved on from them and that like the baggy pants were in. And so when Herbert did that, I'm like, oh, damn, like, okay, something's happening here, man. Herbert has just unlocked a new level of don't give a. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, sure.
He unlocked a level of don't give a fuckness that I was like, that's my dog. Okay, tell me more. And then gradually through the new material process, it opened up all kinds of it like unblocked me in some pretty big ways. You can actually go back and listen to me sort of like working through my creative blocks from episode 1 all the way through episode 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. That enabled me to go and work with a very avant-garde creative director. That inspired me to even change the way that I dress, so on and so forth. And so even me showing up the way that I am right now on this show, I'm like, wow, thank you. Like it was actually new material that operated at a meta level where it allowed me to pour my creative energy into, get back some creative energy. And, you know, now I just get to be authentically myself, which to be fair though, is going to be quite jarring for people from the new material universe who are tuning into this. They'll be like, oh shit, is this the same Hamza that I just saw on stage at KPMG a couple of weeks ago? I'm like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
But know that this is what it takes to actually produce the material that is not necessarily old material, but like it starts from this kiln, this crucible of creativity. What we're doing right now, this free fluid exchange where there's no notes, like straight up audience, Emil did not send any notes. Emil's just like, we're going to hop on this pod and we're just going to chat. Yes. It's like we're freestyling completely. All new material is being generated in real time, but the sediment, the creative sediment that is left at the bottom of this are things that I'm getting from you. Like the laughs, the reactions, and maybe even the act of speaking is the act of thinking. And Herbert and I talk about that in new material all the time. The act of writing is the act of thinking. And I would even add sort of to that mix, speaking as a form of expression.
That's a good point. And I can really hear that you mastered the art of speaking. I could just doze off and listen to you all the time without even.
Dude, are you saying that I'm?
Yeah, you just makes total sense. If you
as a speaker, I'm putting you to sleep, dude.
No, I mean, like I can. Sorry, this might be a translational error.
I think
no, I'm messing with you.
Maybe the voice is silky smooth.
It's
is
like
what Emil's trying to say.
Yeah, it's like soothing, and I can just relax, just listening to what you've said. You seem like
thank you,
with
like
I appreciate that, like man. A calm confidence. You know, this is something I try to reach, and I know I'm more like a spontaneous guy. I can barely like prepare something. The reason I don't prepare much is because I think every time I prepare something, it gets worse than if I'm not. So I'm just leaving it. I have 2 or 3 ideas maybe I can bring, could ask. Usually I could just jump back in, and you need to have some kind of conversation starters. But I really like the way you've progressed. And one thing that I found really interesting of what you just said is that it took for you so many years to kind of realign, or first really align to your own creative identity. And this is something I often see, and I feel myself, that you feel the need to kind of reinvent yourself, to kind of make the switch, to put on the baggy pants, to look cooler, to feel better, to change your looks, to change the way you are. But really, it's not that you kind of go to a store and buy yourself a new identity. It is really kind of chatting. It's really figuring out who you are. And this only goes by expressing yourself regularly without filters. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in that respect, I've always and continue to look up to Herbert, right? Like his consistency with writing is just something that I strive for. This guy publishes every single day. It's actually surreal. As far as output is concerned, he's doing the equivalent of Kobe Bryant putting up 300 shots a day. Like I'm lucky if I bang out like a 2-sentence journal every day. I used to be a lot better at it, but with the travel schedule that I have right now, sometimes it just gets a little disorienting. But now I'm making excuses. I think Herbert has like a level of discipline that allows him to be constantly introspective. And so I'd be curious to hear your perspective on this too, Herbert. Like, do you feel like you're engaging with the inner world and thoughts of Herbert? And then as a secondary question to that, is that what prompted you? And I don't want to harp on the size of your jeans. Pause. Like I just want to. Sorry, I want to like. but I mean, like, that's a pretty big risk because like my paradigm changed when I saw that. Truly, I'm like, wow, Herbert is free. Like he is actually breaking free from the confines of the dominant fashion for our generation, especially coming up in Toronto, where I would say like, I love Toronto with all my heart. Let me just preface by saying this, but like there's a risk aversion. There's like a uniformity there. Like people just sort of like, they dress the same. Everybody wears more or less the same thing. And I don't know why that is.
A lot of black everywhere. A lot of black.
Especially, so like seeing Herbert actually for me was just like, once I got past the initial shock, I'm like, oh shoot, like what has Herbert figured out here? And like it activated questions for me. So I'd love to ask you that question, man. Like, what does the writing do for you in terms of introspection? And then like, how did that introspection, if at all, factor into your creative freedom pre and post New York? Because you appear differently in New York than when I met you in Toronto.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, if we're talking about fits, I definitely first need to shout out Bernice Liu, who is the most stylish person I know, who also is an incredible artist, designer, who also happens to be my wife. And she just, there's this, I'm told that there's this effect called the girlfriend effect, where like when a guy dates a girl, he gets like better looking, like he dresses better, like his skin gets better, like all this stuff, right? And I am a very lucky recipient of that because she just puts me on to like the coolest styles. She's like, yo, you should try this, you could try that. I used to wear all black everything until Bernice came into my life, and I was like, well, I don't know. I guess I don't know why I need to wear all black everything. Oh, I also was visiting Hong Kong, and I think like the protesters were wearing black, and I was just like, I think I need to buy some colors here. I don't want to get misunderstood. But you know, that's the outfits are nice, but I think, you know, in terms of writing every day, it's just something I wanted to practice for a really long time, and I kept finding ways that didn't work for me. Like sometimes the ideas were too ambitious, sometimes I didn't have enough time, or actually that was pretty much it. The ideas were always too ambitious, and I never had enough time. And when it was in February 2022, and my friend Lindsay Jean Thompson was facilitating the 100-Day Project. I interviewed her for Creative Doing. And so she was doing the 100-Day Project that year, as she does every year. And I was like, you know what? I want to try this for 100 days and see how it goes. And I tried writing a blog post every day for 100 days, and I just loved it. I had so much fun doing it. And so I was like, I don't see why I would stop. This doesn't make sense. And so that practice has just carried through a lot of different life circumstances. The biggest one being I got a full-time job at Figma, and I just kept writing through all of it. And I actually think the practice of just writing 5 sentences every day at least, hopefully more, but a lot of times just that is enough to keep me going. And the practice of completing something even if you know it's not perfect, even if you know you can do better. There are a lot of times actually when I work on something for like 20 minutes and then I'm like, oh, I'm out of time, and I just want to scrap it or like, put it away. And then I just end up making like the 5-minute version of it. And I put it out there and it turns out to be good enough. And I was like, oh, like it's a really good way to practice accommodating whatever energy, time, or other sort of creative raw material that you have. And that comes with the understanding that takes away from more promotional kind of activities, right? Like I wrote a couple entries about this lately. So one is called Keeping This Blog the Main Thing, which is about me getting distracted and wanting to promote my work a little more. And that's where I can, this current job at a company called FGX that I work at, my friend James first connected with me because of a newsletter I wrote. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should write more newsletters and things like that, right? But I think I really need to take a step back and just remember, hey, the blog is kind of the process that fuels all of this, right? Like I'm sitting in a park right now. There are a lot of trees around here. And you'll see like every tree has like a main trunk. And then it like branches off into different branches. And the trunk is the thing that like gets all the nutrients and like keeps the whole tree stable, right? It's the foundation of the tree. But the branches are where the leaves grow and where, there's photosynthesis happening and it produces fruit. And I see the blog as like the trunk. And then I see promotional activities like newsletters or social media, or whatever, as the branches. And so I'm like, you got to keep feeding the trunk in order to grow the branches and to sustain that. And so, yeah, that's one of the posts or one of the topics I explored in that post. And my way of getting around that is, okay, when I've written 10 blog posts that'll be shipped, over the next 10 days, maybe then I can focus on the promotional stuff. But until I've done that, then there's really no need to like distract myself at all. I'll just say I want to sum up really quickly as well. Like the other thing that I've gotten into is just trying to not get distracted so much. So, the blog post I wrote is called "Don't Open Up an App" or "Don't Open Your App, Open Your Journal instead." And that's what I've been trying to do more of. It's like, let's not open up the tab. I love Reddit, but let's not do Reddit too early in the day. And let's just like journal out what I'm feeling or why I want to open the app in the first place. Usually I'm running away from something or running towards something. And that often kind of helps me understand my interior world a little better. And it just feels better after. So that's the long-winded answer and the scenic route as to my writing practice.
So that's why you're in the park for the tree metaphor.
for the tree metaphors and the fresh air.
Yeah,
so good.
That's really good. So if your blog is like the trunk of the tree, what's the root then? What are the roots?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. You go deeper and deeper. I feel like I just considered the roots a part of the trunk, although I shouldn't. I'm definitely not a biologist for what it's worth. But I think the roots are also, like the blog might actually be the roots, which then is the question, like, what is the trunk? I'm not sure. I just saw them all as like one thing. I'm going to be real with you. And it keeps me anchored too.
First of all, dude, I could hear you talk all day. Like you hopping on over here is just like, this is why we started New Material, right? Like you can start with Tony Yayo and Battery Park, and you can end up with a beautiful metaphor that rivals like the hub and spoke model of content. Like I'm actually so fucking with the trunk and branches metaphor over here because it's very different than the hub and spoke. The hub and spoke implies a service to the center, but what you're describing is something that spreads up and out, and the expression moves in fairly random directions in light of, I mean, literally wherever the sun moves, wherever the wind moves. I mean, it's so beautiful over here. You know, you said something earlier about keeping the main thing. That actually reminded me of that exact phrase that recurs throughout the show, It Is What It Is, with Cameron and Mace. By the way, we should have a running ticker of how many hip hop references we've made. I think we're like well into the double digits now.
Yeah.
Like Clips, Cameron, Mace, Tony Yayo, the list goes on. And we're only halfway into this, or just past that. But Cam and Mace say, keep the main thing. And they use this in the context of athletes who get distracted. And my work with, I say work, but I really mean like my play with Herbert through the new material process was a good reminder to me about like where I sort of generate the most from my respective ecosystem. And that comes from speaking. So Emil, your question about like, what are the roots? If I can bring some wisdom that I've acquired throughout my speaking journey to maybe lend some perspective on that, the expression that I have is speaking. And then through speaking, I'm able to generate, I guess, my branches. So if the trunk is speaking and my branches are like social media content, videos, books, and other things, what are the roots? I'm going to bring in some wisdom offered by my speaking mentor, Gail Larson, who wrote a fantastic book called Transformative Speaking. And I would highly recommend that book for anybody who wants to take the step into like what I would describe as like pure keynote speaking. Like there's the keynote speaking that you see online and you're like, this is what a speaker does. They dress a certain way, they speak a certain way, but like, you know, a good speech, you feel it. Like it has an emotional resonance with you. And how do you access that version of speaking? She says there's two things. And I went to a retreat with her in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And there was just 5 of us over there. And for the first, I think it was like a 4-day retreat. For the first 3 days, she had us do something really frustrating called excavation. Like she had us just introspect and do a lot of journaling and reflecting on times in our life where we experienced heartbreak and where we had to overcome adversity. And it was just a lot, a very emotional experience. But once we unearthed like the 3 or 4 core stories that animate who we are, she then described that as the home zone and our original medicine. Those are the 2 interchangeable terms. So home zone is very different from comfort zone. Your home zone is when you're actually reliving an experience, an emotionally charged experience, whether that's heartbreak, whether that's rejection, whether that's, a prolonged illness, any time where you felt resistance from the universe and you were pushing up, out, and against that, that is the sort of base of your home zone. And in order for you to be compelling as a storyteller, whether you're writing, whether you're speaking, whether you're teaching, you have to actually relive it. You have to be back in it. And the only equivalent I can think of is like an actor. Like I was watching an interview with, I think it was either Joaquin Phoenix or it was Daniel Day-Lewis, but they were saying, the question was essentially like, how do you conjure up tears on stage or like on set? And like they joked and they're like, sometimes you can put glycerin in your eyes and you can promote it or provoke it. But one of them said, I can't remember what movie it was, but they're like, I thought about the time my dog died and I just relived it. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like here I am watching the scene of you breaking down because in the context of the film, it's whatever. But in order to access that deep emotion, they stood in their respective home zones. There's no way you can fake it. They actually had to relive it. So one of the roots could be your home zone. The other one is your original medicine. That concept is an indigenous one. That means the unique thing that you were put on this earth to do, that is yours and yours alone. And Emil, you have it. Herbert, you have it. I have it. And it's usually born from answering or completing this phrase. In spite of the chaos, I am still. Who are you still in spite of the chaos? Like when the world is changing around you, when you're experiencing any type of adversity, whether that's a breakup, whether that's getting fired, whether that's being unable to pay your rent, whatever the case may be, who are you still? And if you can answer that, then you have found the thing that a previous iteration of you has held on to and maintained to bring you into the present. So I'm not sure if that's the full answer that I would offer you, but something to think about. Like below the branches, there's the roots. So below the branches, there's the trunk. Below the trunk are the roots. But if we're following Herbert's metaphor, maybe the roots are some convergence of like story meets wisdom meets unique thing about you. That's as far as I've gotten with this theory of nature.
This is pretty neat.
I want to say something really quickly.
Go in.
I think what you were talking about with excavation and introspection, I think is pretty on the nose regarding roots And regarding like going deeper, when I journal, I definitely feel like there's new stuff that comes out. Some of it's old, some of it's repetitive. I feel this way again. But some of it's brand new. And I'm like, whoa, it's not like I didn't know this was happening. It's just like the first time I could put it on a page and like, or like say it, like document it. And so that's, I think, a very special process. I try to journal every day. I don't always succeed. And it's very unstructured. And that's why my post was about don't open an app, open your journal instead.
Yeah, I should.
And
do
the
that.
other thing I try to practice that I'm more consistent with is meditating. So I just use Headspace usually, or like a recording online. Like it's nothing fancy, but I do try to sit for at least 3 minutes, usually 10, and go through a guided meditation as early in the day as possible. And I think that also helps ground everything else in my life. And it makes its way into, and it expresses itself in everything else I do after. Before the next one. Yeah.
That's probably why Hamza compared you to Rick Rubin, because he's also very, very into like the
Totally.
Eastern philosophy, meditation kind of things. And a lot of what you've said is something that I just kind of railed out of. I don't know if this even is an expression. Like a train that's derailing. Is this something you could say? I used to journal a lot more, like regularly every day, because I've seen some YouTube videos that is really helpful, and stuff like all the creative and successful people journal, and why shouldn't I start? And you're definitely right. It's sometimes repetitive, sometimes brand new, but I've seen that when the time was when I picked up more work and do more output, I kind of forgot to kind of get more introspective again, because I felt like it takes too much work. But you've said it in a way that made me kind of remember the groundedness that I really need in this case to kind of sustain what I'm doing right now. So I'm really, really taking notes here.
Yeah, Emil, man, that's really cool. And even just like looking at my screen right now, like what I see like 3 very different outwardly presenting human beings. Like we look different. We're in different parts of the city, world, so on and so forth. But we're bound together by this love of multiple things: creativity, hip hop, expression, freedom, levity, so on and so forth. But what makes us unique? Like what actually separates Emil from Herbert, from Hamza, and like vice versa all throughout all of us? And I think it's just whatever comes out on that blank page in that first 15 minutes in the morning when you're journaling. Your original medicine, your home zone, the thing that makes you uniquely you. And I find that the more we access that part of ourselves, the better our output becomes. For example, one of the things I love about Herbert's blogs, I read a lot of blogs, but why Herbert stands out to me, and this is me sort of being aware of all the various cognitive biases that would lead me to, find what Herbert writes more interesting than anybody else, is because Herbert always connects it back to his personal context. Very rarely will you get a blog post that's just about the idea. For example, in this conversation, he talked about the girlfriend effect, right? If Herbert writes a blog about that, let me just describe how it's going to go. Herbert will start with like a really compelling hook, like a stat, a quote, an insight, and then it'll quickly move into the description of the girlfriend effect. And then at some point in a Herbert blog post, you can best believe that he's going to work in his own context, how he met somebody that gave him that insight. Maybe he was sitting in a park. I think it's very entirely possible, Emil, that you and I are going to end up in a future installment of Herbert's blog post.
I hope so.
And that's the beautiful thing, right? Because he's refracting the world through him. And that's why, all 3 of us could write a post about the girlfriend effect. Herbert's is going to be the most unique. Because I know how I write. And sorry, Emil, I'm not familiar with your writing if you do any writing, but like my style of writing is I don't bring myself to it a lot. I just talk about the idea. And then as a result, I run the risk of it feeling generic. So you can ask ChatGPT to write a post on that. You can ask Hamza to write a post about that. And depending on where I'm at in the day, it's probably going to sound kind of similar, minus the excessive use of M dashes and, constructive parallelism and, all of the other hallmarks of AI writing. But Herbert is always tapped in. He's always in flow state with his original medicine, with his home zone. And I find that whenever I'm on stage, when I'm telling more personal stories, it actually gets a better result from the audience. Case in point, I did the same keynote back to back. One was for, I can't put them on blast because it's very possible, Emil, that my clients and my agency are going to listen to them. But I did more or less the same presentation for two different companies in the same sector. I'll leave it at that. In the first one, my case studies were like famous CEOs. I talked about Satya Nadella. I talked about Brian Chesky, and I talked about Eric Yuan. So this would be Microsoft, Airbnb, and Zoom, respectively.
Yes.
It got a decent reception. I did the exact same presentation, but instead of those case studies, I connected them back to stories from my own life. And it got an even better reception because I think what happened for the audience is I was much more expressive. I actually dropped my shoulders. I opened up my hands, my jaw unclenched, and I wasn't just regurgitating a case study that I read about, but I was actually reliving those experiences. And I think that's what made it undeniable, what made it memorable to the audience. And so, if there's any sort of takeaway that I can present after this long ramble, it's, your story might not feel unique because it's your story, but I promise to everybody else it's unique. I actually don't know the Emil story, and I'm very excited over the course of our burgeoning relationship to learn more about it.
Yeah.
I feel very much like we are honorary members of Creative Odyssey and you are an honorary member of New Material. Like, this is fantastic, man. If we had a third co-host, I think it'd be you, dude.
Yeah, let me know. I could really jump on the episode if you think that would fit. I could really bring in a lot of new material.
You can rein in Herbert and I when we go on our detours,
Yes. And I can 100% agree of what you just said. And I think I need to send you some of my writing that I've done. I'm also working on a book where I'm currently on hold because it needs to be restructured. And this is my personal block that I need to, blockage. I need to build a way to get over it. Because I've got a real important kind of feedback. It is probably 75% of it that I wrote myself. And the rest is just the idea that I have, but generated with ChatGPT 4.0, I think.
4.0, yeah.
4.0. And I thought it would be fine if I'm just describing my idea in a way that is good enough. Then I can kind of fill in the book better because I'm kind of trying to kind of avoid the writer's block and just generating some parts. And then I send it over to a fellow author, and she did really give me an insightful feedback that all of this, even imperfect writing that is obviously going through my lens and through my way of seeing the world and how I felt it, works so much better than another example that I just kind of filter through the thousands version of an Steve Jobs example of doing something creative. It is for context. The book is vaguely similar to Herbert's. He's doing more creative prompts, and mine is more based about your own perspective, that you kind of put putting on different glasses, and you need to see your work in a different way sometimes. And this is more about it. And you can definitely see which one of these are more me and some are less me. So I can 100% agree on the words you just said. Yeah.
Brother, there's no other way around it, man. You think Herbert is sort of the paragon in the space for me. He's my favorite writer, right? Favorite artist. In my case, it's actually Herbert. And whenever I write things, I'm like, it has this reached that level of just economy of words, authenticity, like consistency, so on and so forth. But there's no substitute. Like writers know when other writers use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And so like you might be able to, and I'm glad that you disclose it. Like I full disclosure, I use AI regularly, but as a writing partner. I'm just like, offer me a critique, help me brainstorm this initial outline. But then what I actually do is I actually just handwrite everything and then I type it out. And my reason for doing that is actually something that Herbert inspired in one of his earlier blog posts, herbertloy.net, by the way, putting that out there. He made the distinction between many different sort of industrialized versions of art and then their artisan equivalent. And the one that stood out to me was like, are you serving up fast food or are you making like handcrafted smash burgers? And I think that's what I do with my writing. Like, sure, if I wanted to for a client, if they weren't evaluating the quality of it, I could find a way to quickly industrialize 18 blog posts in a minute and it would meet all of their criteria. But if I'm publishing it with my name on it, I know that there's a level of excellence that I expect from myself that I want my clients to also receive or my readers to receive. And the only way that that can happen is if I'm actually writing it out, if I'm actually emotively writing. And there's idiosyncrasies that we have. There's things that are very specific to our style of writing. So my man, I'm very excited for you to explore this idea of creative perspectives.
Yeah.
And if at any point, and speaking as somebody that struggles with imposter syndrome and always hesitates to hit publish, just by virtue of you putting it out there in the world, it is unique. Like you don't have to overthink it. Whatever your perspective is, no matter how ordinary it feels to you, I promise you on the other side of that, when we receive it, it is just going to be unique by virtue of the fact that it came through your refraction of the universe. So my advice would be bring more of your own self to the story.
Yeah.
Tell your stories, man.
To cut off everything else. There's like...
Yeah, sorry. And I'll add one more thing to that.
Yeah.
I'm reading On Writing by Stephen King right now. I think I'm rereading it. And he says this one thing in there that I just get stopped in my tracks every time I see it. He's like, write the story and then remove everything that isn't the story. Remove everything that isn't the story. And I'm like, oh man, shit. Like wow. I'm so guilty of that all the time with my writing because I overcompensate. I overcompensate because I've always been insecure about my lack of formal education. I came up in the education industry and I was always surrounded by these scholars and academics who are just on the sort of publishing track all the time. And I'm like, I have to justify my ideas. And that's how I entered into the universe with Herbert. We both were writing for this publication called 99U. And our editor at the time, Sasha Van Hoven, shout out to Sasha, what she would do is say, make sure that your post is anchored in credible sources. That was her thing. It's like we would write this framing piece, the opening, the closing, but the middle was the insight. And it always had to be properly cited. It had to be something that was a primary source. And so that's how I began my writing. And that spilled over into the Burnout Gamble and to Leadership Reinvented. And you'll see that I'm just constantly taking other people's ideas and presenting them. But when I read Leadership Reinvented now, I know what I wrote and I know what just feels like I'm presenting another idea. And what I'm doing very intentionally for my next book, and I'm aiming for a 2026 release date, is I'm just telling my own stories and my own ideas. I'm actually not depending on secondary sources for this one. It's a bit of a creative risk. This book toes the line of nonfiction and business/self-help, but I'm just going to swing for the fences, man. And I think it's actually going to be a better book because if the reception is anything like what I'm getting on stage, I'm a writer before I am a speaker. If people liked what they heard on stage, they're going to love what's in the book.
That's a good perspective. And I can definitely agree on that as well. I just think that, at least from my viewpoint, that writing has a other threshold than, for example, like in podcast episode. I have no... And like a real structure, I'm not writing a script of a paper for you because this is like a conversation that's happening and I put a lot of my perspectives on there. But as soon as I think I need to, or I want to publish it because I think the book is a good format and this is something you want to have to just have done in your lifetime, something like that, then you're just having like a much more like a barrier even. Like once it's out, it's out. It's something you cannot really rehearse. I mean, you can do another version of it and iterate it and have some new editions printed out, but the main thing is still the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to think about. And I got to close on this note, I think, but you guys should keep going if you still have time. I think for me, it's like generally trying to delineate between like a performance, an audition, and practice, right? Like there's going to be different occasions, and you don't want to practice during your performance. You want to perform. And at the same time, like if you're, you also don't want to take your practice so seriously all the time that like you're performing, because then it's going to squish all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And you got to know what's happening when, basically, and kind of like delineate and split that energy and those activities up. Like the blog very much is a practice for me. I don't expect things to really go very far, and I don't expect that many people to read it. And so that's why it very much is almost like a publicly accessible version of my note cards, right? My Zettelkasten. And that's okay. And that has to stay that way too, because otherwise, like, I'm going to also start wanting to perform every day, and that's just not feasible. I think what's also nice about the blog as a medium is people don't always go to the blog, right? Like they go on social, they go on email or whatever. And so naturally it actually suits, like that is its strength and its advantage.
Yeah.
And the people who do read it end up forming really deep connections with the people who write it. And so there's something very special about that. And then the opportunity is now, it's cool. I have like 3 years worth of library of blog posts. Which ones do I want to promote a little more, or which ones do I think are better? I have a post called Publish Everything and Promote Selectively, something like that. And another one called Don't Send, Publish, or Publish, Don't Send. And the idea is just like, hey, just share everything. Like a lot of my ideas come from my email inbox. And so it's all just a big part of the practice. It's like one post a day, and then from there, that's the root and the trunks. And then from there, like we'll see where the branches go.
Herbert's
dropping gems here near the end of the
sage
episode.
Advice, man. Literally, he's looking like a a friggin' like a. I was gonna be. Sorry, man, I'm getting derailed over here. Just the image of you like sitting by a tree with the glasses from the year 3000. It's
giving you like you travel
like
from
cyberpunk,
the future.
like guru, man. It's something, man. It's special.
But to be honest, this is something really, really helpful for me to kind of make the differentiation between performing, practicing, and that makes me rehearsing. Really, yeah. It's something about confidence, even, that I need to perform only the things that I'm really confident in, and something like the podcast for me to explore ideas and play around. And
facts.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Emil, I'm really glad that we were able to have this conversation, man. When you reached out, I was like, hey, man, what do you think about getting Herbert and I on this at the same time? Because this is when we're usually scheduled to record new material. So I kind of love, in a very serendipitous way, that we were able to reconnect with you, feel the creative spark. And I know we're going to carry this momentum into our next episode, and as many episodes as we can get before Herbert completely changes time zones.
Yeah.
So Emil, just letting you know, at some point we're going to have to record episode 2 of this, or episode whatever of new material with all 3 of us.
Yes.
And it's going to require the help of ChatGPT to figure out when is the best time to record this. It'll be somebody staying up all night in order to sync up. For me,
it's just like 10 p.m. here. It's still fine, but it's a bit late for me. That's why I'm a bit less energy than I usually have, but I'm still calm, and I've got a lot on today, so that's totally fine. If you want, you can also just cross-publish this episode we've just done. I don't know if you go for video or just audio, because I just recorded audio.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Okay. So that would be it. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time. And I'm really, really open for another round of these 3. We can never run out of topics because we haven't even touched base on the topics I proposed. So yeah,
my bad, man. That was all my bad, man. I just felt very comfortable from the moment we logged on.
Yeah.
But speaking of comfort, I am about to get very uncomfortable. I now have to go on a mission, do groceries in New York City, something that Herbert knows all about.
No.
And I'm about to pay $10 USD for eggs, Emil. So whatever you do, don't come to New York anytime soon, man.
Oh man, eggs are here like 10 pieces for €260.
Wow, unbelievable.
And these are like I don't know, free range. I don't know what's the equivalent. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, the costs are going better here, but yeah. But
what would Tony Yayo do? You know?
Yeah, if you find Tony Yayo, then ask him if he wants to come off the podcast. Herbert, take your time and looking out for him. Maybe you can see it in the park.
He might have passed us just now. I don't know.
There's all kinds of characters that passed you. One of my favorite things in like watching you speak, Herbert, is just like looking at your backdrop. And there was like, it was quintessential New York, man.
Yep.
At some point, a person, I swear to God, he ran behind you with shorts on his head. It was bizarre. And somehow it made perfect sense. I'm just like,
any kind of person you can encounter. All right.
Yeah.
I don't want to stretch the end out too long. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, guys.
I will let you know when this is coming out, and see you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed listening to my podcast, you can show support by following me and hit the bell to never miss out on my latest content. I'd appreciate a positive review too. You can find more of my content on www.emildruth.com. Thanks and bye for now.